Have you ever felt that some Pikmin enemies are too strong? Well, it feels like most enemies are either weak or average. There are always a few that seem to be stronger than everyone else. This can be due to them having stronger attacks,
What the fuck?
being more aggressive and actively seeking you out,
Oh no, I got that fight or flight feeling again and I'm flighting!
or they just seem to have a counter to everything you throw at them. This video will be covering said enemies throughout the franchise. Now there is a problem, and that is that not all overpowered enemies are made equal. Some overpowered enemies make other overpowered enemies seem like jokes in comparison. To rectify this, I'll be using this ranking system. It goes from barely overpowered at the bottom all the way up to guaranteed misery at the top. This will help us keep track of which overpowered enemies are the best. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe for high quality Pikmin videos weekly.
Excuse me, man, fight or flight? Fight or flight!
Pikmin 1 has a surprisingly large library of enemies that can ruin your day, which is pretty impressive because the game only has a total of 26 different enemies. By far the most infamous is the Wollyhops. Everybody touts these guys as some of the strongest and most threatening enemies in this game, but you know what, I'm gonna say it, I do not care for the Wollyhop. These guys are overrated. If you swarm them with a large number of Pikmin, they can't move at all and just die. By the off chance they do somehow jump if you swarm them, then just immediately whistle. They do have the advantage of being able to kill a large quantity of your Pikmin though, and if you are new to the game and don't know how to deal with them, then good luck, they get spammed everywhere. I'm gonna put them in alright. Bullbears are another prominent threat in this game. They act very similar to Bulborbs, and by very similar I mean basically the exact same except with a larger amount of HP. Their large HP means you basically need a full squad of reds to be able to kill them without casualties. Not to mention they get spammed a lot as well, appearing 6 times in the distant spring. This alone would be enough to warrant a high enough place in the list. However, there is one last thing. You know how sheer grubs are invulnerable while attacking in this game? Yeah, well, some sicko gave that feature to the enemy with over 1000 HP. I was on the fence between strong or very strong, but I eventually decided on very strong. The Emperor Bulblax is the final boss of Pikmin 1, and he boasts a HP of 30,000, a ridiculous amount, and he's the size of a skyscraper in this game. A large amount of his attacks can take a large amount of Pikmin at once, and to defeat him you need to feed him bombs. The difficulty on him depends on what version of the game you are playing. The GameCube version lets you drop bombs, which can guarantee a long stun on him and makes the fight much more manageable. However, the modern versions of this game on Switch and Wii do not let you do this. This makes it really hard to get through him deathless and means you will usually have to sacrifice a yellow Pikmin. If he kills a Pikmin while eating a bomb, his stun is shortened by a large amount, making this fight harder. He is fair enough when you get the hang of him, and I think he deserves a strong high on the tier list. Last for Pikmin 1, and certainly not least, we have the Smoky Prog, Guaranteed Misery. I don't think I even need to explain this one. If any Pikmin touches the gloom coming out of him, they are gone. You need to be pinpoint with your aim, or you can suffer heavy losses, and that is easier said than done, considering he pursues you and can constantly shake Pikmin off. He also has a grisly 5,000 hit points, so killing him takes an asinine amount of time. Thankfully, he is optional as long as you don't accidentally trigger him, so you really don't need to worry about him. Who is overpowered in Pikmin 2? Everyone is. Thanks for watching. I'm going to be brief with these considering we have 14 enemies to go through for this one game. 14 out of 64 enemies can be considered overpowered in this game. That's 22% of the enemies in the game. 26% if you don't count harmless enemies. Quite a large chunk. Let's start off with the objectively best enemy in the series, the Volatile Weevil. This legend blows himself up to kill you. People who can't understand fine art say that this guy is unfair. However, you are given plenty of time to react to his attack. Notably, these LARPers in Pikmin 4 blow up the second they touch the ground, but nobody gives out about it. Interesting how society works. If the attack lands, it's an immediate trip to the reset button. I'll put them in alright, which is obviously because the Volatile Weevil wasn't utilising his full potential to make Pikmin 2 a more enjoyable experience for everyone. How considerate. The Man at Legs. I feel like this guy is pretty overhyped. He has one very calligraphed attack, and if you just run behind the barrier, he'll never be able to hit you. I'll put him at barely overpowered. I feel like a lot of the same also applies to the Titaned Weevil. A lot of his attacks can also be dodged by walking away. However, he does have more attacks, and some of them do go outside of his arena, so I'll put him in alright. The Pileated Snagret. I kind of find this guy to be overhyped as well. The community describes this guy like he's the Demon Core, but it's basically a more beefy Snagret that is harder to hit. Still a challenging fight though, and I actually like this one despite the common consensus. I'll put it in alright. The Empress Bulblax. I'll never understand why the first boss looks like this and can instantly wipe out your squad if you approach it wrong. The first fight isn't all that bad, but the second and third fights introduce the Bulborb larva. The Bulblax will constantly spew these guys out and they can be nasty. If they eat a Pikmin, there is no saving it. This adds a lot of micromanagement to the fight, which makes it quite stressful to deal with. However, if you're experienced with the game, it's not the worst thing in the world. I'll put it in a solid strong. The cannon larvae are interesting. I'm putting both the decorated and armored in the same category because they are basically the same enemy aside from how the boulders work. Anyways, these guys shoot out boulders which can crush Pikmin. You might be confused on why these guys here are not the armored cannon beetle from Pikmin 1, and the reason for that is these guys have quite a few advantages over the cannon beetle from Pikmin 1. The main one being spam. The cannon beetle gets used twice in the entire game in Pikmin 1, while the larvae can be used up to 10 times in one sublevel in Pikmin 2. The buried variants are also immune to being stunned by purple Pikmin. Their knockback range is pretty insane as well, and because they get used a lot in the metallic sublevels, expect to see your Pikmin get thrown over the edge a lot. I'll put them at the top as strong. Them being quite frail is what barely got them out of very strong. The careening Dirigibug. Looking back at these enemy designs made me just realize how deranged Pikmin 2's concepts and designs are when compared to the rest of the series. This guy flies on balloons while chucking bombs that just generates out of his mouth. This guy works best when he's around other enemies. If it's by itself, it really isn't hard to deal with, but if it is around other enemies, it is a pain. The bombs add so much clutter it makes it practically impossible to deal with anything. I'll put them in strong. The fiery Bulblax. This guy has higher HP than some bosses and can only be dealt with by red Pikmin, and we all know we'll be bringing loads of them. They're the best type in the game. Other than that, they're basically a normal Bulbor, but you can only deal with them with one type and they have bonkers HP. Strong. We only have 4 more enemies left in Pikmin 2, but let's take a quick detour over to Pikmin 3. If you used any words to describe Pikmin 3, difficult would not be one of them. It's the easiest Pikmin game by a long shot. Hell, even Hey Pikmin is harder, but that brings up the question, is there any overpowered enemies? Well, there is 2, the Quaggled Myroclops and the Plasm Wraith. And just how overpowered are they? Yeah, these guys are the hardest that Pikmin 3 gets. The Quaggled Myroclops is challenging, but if you are experienced, it's dealt with easily enough, and for the Plasm Wraith, that annoying pincer attack is carrying him. You can avoid it if you only bring rocks, but that brings up some other problems for the rest of the fight. Alright, back to Pikmin 2, we have the Gatling Groink. Probably one of the most infamous enemies in Pikmin 2. It can track you down, revive, and can be pretty difficult to hit. Its face shield can protect it from attacks, and it can be very awkward trying to get the right angle on this guy. His attack is well calligraphed though, and only the middle bullet can kill Pikmin, which balances him out a bit. He can be an absolute nightmare if he's paired with other enemies, however, I'll put him at a high strong. The Segmented Crobster. This is one of the last bosses you will have to face, and my opinion is the most difficult in the game. If you aren't fully familiar with Pikmin 2, your ass will get absolutely handed to you by this guy. The main gist of the fight is he rolls up into a ball and chases you. If he rolls over your Pikmin, they're dead, and he has a very good chance of just wiping out your whole squad. To get any damage on him, you have to bash him into a wall, but as he's vulnerable, boulders fall from the ceiling, which can make it very hard to hit him. Like every other boss in this game, he does have a cheese, but it's the hardest cheese to pull off in the game, and you definitely won't know it the first time fighting him. Very strong. The Bullbear is back, and he's broken for different reasons this time. Instead of sleeping, he is constantly awake and will track you down just like the Gatling Groink. He also brings along an army of dwarf Bullbears along with him, and even if you do with the Bullbear perfectly normally, these guys will always manage to get in a kill. I'll put him next to the Groink. And finally, for Pikmin 2, we have the Water Wraith. This guy is special because you can't kill him until the game lets you kill him. If he shows up before sublevel 5 in the Submerged Castle, he is invulnerable. He's just allowed to freely roam around the sublevel and kill all your Pikmin. Kind of just makes him an automatic guaranteed misery. Pikmin 4 is interesting because at this point in the franchise, the game has introduced so many gimmicks and gizmos that you have so many ways to deal with the enemies. The biggest example of this is the Smoky Prog. He is objectively stronger than he is in Pikmin 2 with more attacks and more HP, but in Pikmin 1 you only had the Pikmin to fend him off. In Pikmin 4 you have fucking 500 tools in your disposal to kill this guy, which only puts him at a strong. The Water Wraith. It's the same situation as Pikmin 2, despite him being really nerfed, you can't kill him and he's invulnerable, so that kind of just nets him an automatic guaranteed misery. The Jumbo Bulborb. This guy is an extremely big Bulborb. He has a high amount of HP and can be relatively difficult, but yet again you have so many tools to deal with him, and he's pretty rare as well. I'll put him in alright. The Empress Bulblax. Basically the exact same as Pikmin 2, I'll just put him right next to the Pikmin 2 one as well. The Sovereign Bulblax. He is basically just the exact same one as Pikmin 1, but yet again we have a Smoky Prog situation where you have so many tools to defeat him now. I'll put him at a strong. That concludes our list of overpowered enemies, and the final ranking looks like this. If you disagree with my ranking or thought I forgot any enemies, make sure to let me know in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe or I'll send the Water Wraith after you.